Whoop! Hey everyone, it's your boy Zen the Geek, and what I have here with me is the Transcend ESD420. This is a magnetic portable SSD, which is made for things like the iPhone. It's just a magnetic portable SSD that you can connect directly using USB Type-C to your iPhone so that you can start moving things around, expand your storage, and of course, shoot Apple ProRes video. It has a 3D NAND flash and even an SLC cache, and those are, not just, talking about just being basic, but also quite essential aspects of what makes a good SSD, because you need something like an SLC cache to give you that burst speed when you're moving a lot of data around, and the ESD420C definitely has that feature, and that's why I'm using this as a great example of using an SSD for your iPhone and moving things around across every other type of device that you have. So this SSD has three variants, so 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte, and 4 terabytes at the highest end. Based on my previous videos, I also want to help identify certain model names. So the ESD420 is the name of the SSD, and I know in some places you'll see ESD420C, ESD420G. The reason why they have those letters at the end is to identify colors. Speaking of colors, this is the iron gray version, and that means this is the ESD420G, and the champagne gold is the ESD420C. The USB port is a Type-C USB 3.2 Gen 2x2 in the Type-C interface, and it has up to USB 20 gigabits per second of speed, which is quite fast. And we'll delve into how we can help achieve those kinds of speeds a little later on. And this makes this a pretty ideal buddy to just carry around everywhere you go, because it's just this size. If it's already not on your iPhone, it's already in your shirt pocket, or it's already slipped into your backpack. Yeah, and like I said, Apple ProRes is a big thing. That's why, there is an emerging market for people wanting to use their iPhone as a main video device. And Apple requires you to use an external SSD to write that high bitrate video footage straight into theirs and not into the internal storage. And there is kind of a few reasons why that is so. But do take note that this is especially known for like the iPhone 15 series and above. And I have the iPhone 17 Pro with me, which uses the USB 3 interface. So I can only get up to 10 gigabits per second from here, or 1250 megabytes per second, but that's okay. Even though that's like half the listed speed, the point is it fits Apple's requirements to write video footage into the external SSD, because the minimum for 4K 60 ProRes is 220 megabytes per second, and for 4K 120 FPS for your slow-mo, or the highest settings if you will, is 440 megabytes per second. So we are way ahead in terms of just requirements alone, because ProRes 422 high quality is about 6 gigabytes per minute, and that really is a lot. And regardless of how advanced the iPhone has gotten over the years, heat is still the enemy. And with such high bit rates, the processor is already doing a lot of work. So adding high intensity reading and writing into its list of tasks is going to overheat this phone. And when you overheat a phone, any phone for the matter, it begins to throttle. And when you concern throttle with recording long durations of footage, you're gonna get frame drops, you're gonna get stuttering, and you might even get the extreme high temperature message popping out on your phone, which you do not ever want to see. Also, it's quite nice to immediately offload it straight to an SSD and then straight to your computer, so that you can immediately work on them without needing to even copy onto the desktop. 20 gigabits per second, reaching those numbers on a desktop or a laptop are easily reachable as long as you have the compliant cables and the compliant USB Type-C ports to support such speeds. And if you do fall into that ideal environment, yes, you can definitely start editing directly from the SSD. You don't need to copy anything to your desktop anymore. Besides, you're not really going to tell yourself that you're going to airdrop hundreds of gigabyte files onto your MacBook straight, right? That's going to take so long. Might as well just do it here. I went through some benchmarks, and of course the most ideal way for me to really see those results, those advertised results, whether it's real or not, is to connect it directly to my desktop and run some benchmarks. I mainly use two apps, AS SSD benchmark tool as well as Crystal Disk, so that I could have a bit of comparison. So here are the results that I managed to obtain running those benchmarks on several cache sizes. I managed to get over the advertised speeds, which got me over 2,100 megabytes per second on read and about 1,840 megabytes per second when it comes to writing, and that's on a 2 gig cluster. Moving on to the 8 gigabyte size, yeah, it even managed to just go up in speed by just a little bit, because we are starting to see the SLC cache is putting itself to work. while the write speed is easily maintained. And as the reference point, when I was running these benchmarks, the peak temperature I managed to see was up to 50 degrees Celsius, which is not too bad. And even at 50 degrees, it didn't feel toasty on the phone or on my desktop, because when I touch it, it just felt barely warm. So I guess this is pretty nice and well built to withstand heat, and you know, it's a mainly plastic enclosure. It even passed mil standard 810G tests to ensure some durability in that aspect. I'm not going to drop that SSD, but it's good to know and have a peace of mind if you actually do drop your SSD in the future. And trying the benchmark test again on the AS SSD benchmark tool, I actually got very different results. So from a 1 GB run, I managed to get under its advertised speed and managed to get about 1948 megabytes per second with a write speed of 1668, and it ever only increases by a little bit when you're going to the 3 gig cluster, so that you again see that SLC cache working to increase those speeds. And seeing it in its peak form at 10 gigabyte clusters, we're getting over 1960 megabytes per second with a 1739 megabytes per second of write speed. Because as you know, when you buy these types of products, when they promise certain speeds, it's all tested in a lab in an ideal environment with everything set in place to reach those standards. The reason why I use two different benchmark tools is because, one is benefit of the doubt, and two, to just have a bit of comparison to see how different apps work, to give a more accurate semblance of what a good benchmark should be. And I would say that when it comes to benchmarking, yeah, the ESD420 is doing quite well. And if you just want to know things like how fast I could copy hundreds of gigabytes of files, this is a good way to see just how fast it can be. Moving gigabytes and gigabytes of files, regardless of what it is, except video files maybe, you're definitely going to be moving everything all zippy and fast in mere seconds, if not just early minutes. And for video files, it will just be your standard 2 to 3 minutes for just raw 4K footage per file, assuming that each file is about 2 to 5 gigabytes. So this is just a very rough range. Your mileage may vary. It really depends on what you're trying to transfer, and it's a very simple product. It doesn't require a lot of thinking to make a decision, and I would say that the ESD420 is a really good choice for shooting videos on your iPhone and carrying things around. It's something that everybody should have. It's like a creator essential, I would say, so that when you start shooting and using your phone as a main video source, this plays into that narrative very nicely. These are such fast-moving products that prices do change from time to time, but as of time of this recording, the 1 terabyte starts from 528 ringgit and the 2 terabyte is about 948-ish ringgit, while the highest and 4 terabyte is at 1870 ringgit. The USD price is next to it in the text. So yeah, if you're just looking for just a simple fire and forget solution that slots right onto your phone, reads and writes quite well and reliably for large clusters of data, and in a cinch, yeah, I definitely do recommend the ESD420. So thank you guys for watching. I'm Zen the Geek, and I'll see you guys in the next video.